She thought it was just another shift. 12 hours on the palliative care ward. The ward that nobody asked to work on. The ward that took a particular kind of person. The kind who could hold a hand in the dark and not look away. She had been that kind of person for 9 years. But nothing, not 9 years of watching people leave, had prepared her for what the man in room 7 would ask her. Not in the middle of the night. Not with the monitors beeping softly and the city quiet outside. Not with his voice barely above a whisper and his hands already trembling. Not with those eyes looking at her like she was the last good thing in the world. His name was Samuel Ashford, 34 years old, the last living member of his family. And in 72 hours, the name Ashford would die with him. Unless someone was willing to carry it forward. What he asked her that night was impossible. Unprecedented. The kind of request that no medical protocol covered and no training prepared you for. And yet, she said yes. And that changed everything. Her name was Deanna Osei, 31 years old. Senior nurse, palliative care unit, St. Aldwyn's Hospital. The ward on the 4th floor that smelled of antiseptic and something quieter underneath it. Something like goodbye. Diana had chosen this ward. Not been assigned to it. Not defaulted to it when nothing else was available. She had requested it specifically in her 3rd year of nursing, when a colleague had told her the palliative ward would break her. That's why I want it, she had said. She believed that dying deserved the best nurses, not the leftover ones. Not the ones who looked at their watches. Not the ones who charted and moved on. The best ones, the ones who stayed. She was good at it in a way that was hard to explain to people outside medicine. It wasn't toughness. It wasn't emotional distance. It was almost the opposite. She felt everything. She simply had learned to feel it without being swallowed by it. To be fully present in a room with someone who was leaving. To offer her presence as something real. Not performed, not professional. Real. Her colleagues admired her. Some of them also worried about her. She had no children, no partner. She spent most of her off days reading or walking in the park near her flat. She was not unhappy, she was clear about that. Just not yet arrived at the version of her life that felt complete. She did not know that the man in room 7 was about to change that. Samuel Ashford had been admitted to St. Aldwyn's palliative unit 6 weeks ago. Not an emergency admission. A planned one. The kind that happens when a person has known for a long time what is coming and has had the time to prepare. The diagnosis was Huntington's disease. A hereditary neurological condition. Degenerative, progressive, incurable. It had taken his father at 51. His grandfather at 47. Every male Ashford in 3 generations. Samuel had been diagnosed at 26. He had known for 8 years that this was how his story ended. He had spent those 8 years deciding what to do with that knowledge. He had not spent them in grief. That was the thing about Samuel Ashford that everyone who met him noticed first. He had spent them building. A small architecture firm. Houses mostly, modest ones, for families who couldn't afford expensive design. He had said once, in an interview a local paper had done about his work, that he liked building things that would outlast him. Everything I make will be standing when I'm not, he had said. That's not sad, that's the point. The journalist had not fully understood what he meant. The people who knew about his diagnosis understood perfectly. By the time Diana met him, the disease had progressed significantly. The motor symptoms, the involuntary movements that gave the condition its name, were visible now. His hands trembled. His walk had changed. Speaking took effort. But his mind was still completely intact. That was the cruelty of Huntington's in its middle stages. The mind watches the body become unreliable. Fully aware, fully present. Watching everything change from the inside. Samuel had been watching from the inside for 3 years. He had handled it with a steadiness that his care team found remarkable and heartbreaking in equal measure. He was not pretending to be all right. He simply was, in the specific way of someone who has done their grieving early and arrived somehow at acceptance. Diana had taken over as Samuel's primary nurse in his 2nd week on the ward. His previous nurse had gone on leave. Diana had picked up his chart and walked into room 7 and introduced herself. He had been sitting up in bed, reading an architecture journal. He had looked up when she entered. "You're new," he said. "To you," she said, "not to the ward." He had smiled at that. She had not expected the smile to be what it was. Full, warm, like nothing about the room they were in had diminished it. "Fair enough," he said. "I'm Samuel." They found their rhythm quickly. Some patients and nurses do. A compatibility that isn't romantic and isn't merely professional. Something in between. Built from honesty and time, and the particular intimacy of being known at your most vulnerable. Samuel asked questions. Not small ones. He asked what she thought about things. About dying. About what it meant to do what she did every day. About whether she believed in anything after. She answered honestly, which was unusual. Most nurses learned to deflect those questions with professional warmth. Diana had never been able to deflect. "I don't know what I believe about after," she told him one afternoon, "but I believe in this, in being here, in the room mattering." He had looked at her for a long moment. "Yes," he said, "that's exactly it." He told her about his family. Over the weeks. In the natural way of a person who is accounting for a life. His father. A quiet man who had built bookshelves in every house he ever lived in. Who had gone to every school play Samuel had ever been in. Who had died in a room not unlike this one, with Samuel beside him, holding his hand. Samuel had been 29. His mother had died when Samuel was 12, a car accident, unrelated. His older sister had emigrated to New Zealand at 22 and died there at 25. Sudden cardiac event, also unrelated. 2 losses unconnected to the disease. And then his father. And now him. There were no aunts or uncles. No cousins that anyone knew of. His grandparents were long gone. The Ashford family was Samuel. And Samuel was the Ashford family. And he was 34 years old and dying. Diana had sat with that knowledge quietly. She did not offer platitudes. She had learned early in her career that platitudes were for the speaker, not the person listening. They wrapped discomfort in a bow and called it comfort. Samuel didn't need her discomfort managed. He needed her present. She was. There was a box on his windowsill. Diana had noticed it from the first day. Wooden, small, handmade by the look of it. A dovetailed joint at the corners that suggested someone who knew what they were doing. She had never asked about it. Some things on a palliative ward you wait to be told. He told her in the 4th week. "My father made that," he said. They were sitting in the afternoon light. She was doing his evening observations. "He made one for every person he loved. When my sister died, he made one for her and kept it. When he died, I kept both." "What's inside?" she said. "Letters," he said. "He wrote a letter to everyone who mattered, sealed them, said they were for when he was gone." "Have you read them?" "Every one," he said, "many times." A silence. "He wrote one to me about the day I was born," Samuel said. "About what he felt when the nurse put me in his arms. He said he had never understood until that moment that love wasn't something you built over time. It arrived complete, fully formed, in 1 second. Diana held that for a moment. "And the box for your sister," she said carefully. Samuel looked at the window. "I've been adding to it," he said. "Letters she'll never read. Things I want to say to someone who isn't there anymore." He was quiet for a moment. "There's a 3rd box," he said. I made it myself. Who is that one for? She said. He turned and looked at her. With the direct, unguarded look she had come to know over 4 weeks. I don't know yet, he said. It was a Tuesday. Week 6. Diana was on the night shift. The ward was quiet in the way that hospital wards are quiet at 2 in the morning. Not silent. Never silent. But hushed, turned inward. She did her rounds. She checked on room 7 at 1:40. Samuel was awake. He was often awake at this hour. Sleep had become difficult. He looked different that night. Not worse physically. Something else. Like a person who has been carrying a decision for a long time and has finally put it down in front of them to examine. Can you sit? He said. Of course, she said. He looked at his hands for a while. The tremor was present. It was always present now. He had stopped trying to hide it weeks ago. I need to ask you something, he said. And I need you to know before I ask it that I will fully understand whatever your answer is. I'm not asking because I expect anything. I'm asking because I have run out of time to not ask. Diana set down her clipboard. Fully. The way she did when something required her whole attention. Ask, she said. He was quiet for a long moment. She waited. She was good at waiting. Huntington's is hereditary, he said. That's the word everyone uses. Hereditary, passed from parent to child, my father to me, his father to him. She nodded. She knew this. What most people don't know, what I didn't fully understand until I sat with a geneticist 18 months ago, is that the inheritance pattern is paternal in my family's case. And there is a version of this disease in which the mutation, through specific embryo selection during IVF, can be screened out entirely. Diana was still. She was beginning to understand where this was going. The shape of it. Before the words arrived. I could have a child, Samuel said. A healthy child. A child who would not carry this. A child who would carry my name and my father's name and my grandfather's name without carrying what killed them. He looked at her. But I need someone willing to carry that child, he said. And I have nobody left. My family is me, and I am ending. The room was very quiet. I know what I'm asking, he said. I know it is the most significant thing one person can ask of another. I know it is not a small thing or a simple thing or a thing that fits inside any normal framework. He pressed his trembling hands together. But you are the only person I trust enough to ask. She did not answer that night. He had not expected her to. He had said as much. I'm not asking for an answer tonight. I'm asking you to carry the question for a while. That's all. She had carried it. For 4 days. She had gone home after that shift and sat in her kitchen until the sun came up. Not crying. Not panicking. Just sitting with the full weight of what had been placed in front of her. She thought about the obvious things first. She went through them methodically. The way she approached everything that required serious thought. She was 31 years old. She was single. She was financially stable. She was healthy. She had always wanted children. She had simply not yet found the circumstances that felt right. She had always wanted to be a mother. She had just never imagined it beginning like this. She thought about Samuel. About who he was. About 6 weeks of conversations that had been more honest than most she had ever had. About a man who had known for 8 years he was dying and had spent those years building houses for families he would never meet. About the wooden box with the dovetail joints. About a third box for someone he hadn't named yet. She thought about what it meant to be the last of something. To know that a name, a whole line of people, with their specific faces and their specific ways of laughing and their specific knowledge of how to build bookshelves and make houses and love their children, was about to end. Not because of war. Not because of disaster. Simply because of time and biology and the specific bad luck of one family's genetics. She thought about his father's letter. Love arrived complete, fully formed, in 1 second. She thought about that for a long time. On the 4th day, she called her mother. Not to ask permission, just to say it out loud to someone who loved her. Her mother was quiet for a long time after Diana finished. "Do you want to do this?" her mother said. "I think I do," Diana said. "I think I have wanted to be a mother for a long time, and I think this man is asking me because he has no one else who could love his child the way it deserves to be loved." "Diana," her mother said. "I know," Diana said. "I know all the complications. I'm not asking you to understand them right now. I'm just telling you." A long silence. "You were always the one who stayed," her mother said quietly. "When everyone else walked away from hard things, you stayed." Diana looked at the window. "Someone has to," she said. She went back to room 7 on the 5th day. Evening. The ward settling into its night rhythm. Samuel was sitting up. He had the architecture journal again. He looked up when she entered. He did not ask. He waited. She sat down, in the chair beside his bed, the one she had been sitting in for 6 weeks. She looked at him, at the man who was 34 years old and losing his body and the last of his name. At the man who had spent 4 days trusting her to carry the hardest question she had ever been asked. "I've thought about it," she said. "I know," he said. "I have questions." She said. "I have answers," he said. "First," she said, "I need to know that you understand what this means for me, that this isn't something I'm doing for you. I mean, it starts there. But if I do this, I'm doing it for the child, and for myself, not as a sacrifice." He nodded immediately. "I know that," he said. "That's the only version I would accept. I'm not asking you to be a vessel. I'm asking you to be a mother. Those are completely different things." She felt something settle in her chest. He had understood before she asked. That was Samuel. He always understood before she asked. "Second," she said, "the genetic screening. I need to speak to your specialist. I need to fully understand the process and the risk profile and the success rate. I won't do this on faith alone." "I already called Dr. Amara's office," he said. "She's expecting you tomorrow morning." Diana blinked. "You called her before I answered," she said. "I called her when I decided to ask you," he said. "I wanted to be ready if you said yes. I didn't want you to wait any longer than necessary." She looked at him, at the careful, considered, thorough man who had known for 8 years he was dying, and had spent every day since making sure that when something needed to be done, it was done properly. "Yes," she said. "Just that. Simply." He closed his eyes. He pressed his trembling hands together. He was quiet for a long time. When he opened his eyes, they were bright. Not with tears. With something else. Something that looked like the beginning of peace. Dr. Amara was a genetic counselor and reproductive specialist who had worked with Huntington's families for 20 years. She met Diana the following morning. She was precise and kind in the way of someone who had delivered both the best and worst news of people's lives, and had learned to do both with equal care. She explained the process thoroughly. IVF with preimplantation genetic testing. Embryos screened before implantation. The specific mutation, identified in Samuel's genome, used as the marker. Any embryo carrying the mutation discarded. Only a healthy embryo implanted. The success rate with his genetic profile, Dr. Amara said carefully, is approximately 60% for a healthy embryo per cycle. It may take more than 1 attempt. "How much time does he have?" Diana said. Dr. Amara looked at her. "His neurologist believes 3 to 5 months, possibly less. The deterioration has been faster than predicted in the last 6 weeks." Diana sat with that. 3 to 5 months. "Then we need to start immediately," she said. She did not tell the ward. Not yet. There would be questions she wasn't ready to answer and protocols. She would have to navigate and opinions she had not asked for. She knew all of that was coming. She handled what was in front of her first. The appointments happened on her days off. The consultations, the preparation. The quiet, clinical, remarkably ordinary process through which an extraordinary thing was being attempted. She told Samuel everything after each appointment. He listened with the focused attention he gave everything. He asked the right questions. He never once treated her body as something that existed for his benefit. He treated the whole process as something they were navigating together. Which was, she realized, what it was. In the evenings, on his better days, they talked. The way they had always talked. About everything. About what he hoped the child would be like. He was careful about this. He said he had no preference, no blueprint. I just want them to be curious, he said. About everything. The way my father was. He could spend an entire afternoon studying how a hinge worked. Deanna smiled. I can work with curious, she said. He told her more about his father. About the smell of sawdust in his workshop. About the way he hummed when he was concentrating. About the bookshelves. Always the bookshelves. Every house, every room. He said a room without books was a room still waiting to wake up, Samuel said. Deanna filed that away. With everything else. She was building a picture of a family she had never met, so she could give it to a child who would never meet them either. That was her job now, alongside everything else, to carry all of it forward. The first IVF cycle produced 2 viable embryos. One tested positive for the mutation. One was clear. One healthy embryo. Dr. Amara called Deanna on a Thursday morning with the results. Deanna sat in her car in the hospital car park for a long time before going in. She was not crying. She was something else. The particular, still feeling of standing at the edge of something enormous. She went directly to room 7. She told him. His hands were shaking more than usual that morning. The disease progressing. His speech was slower. But his eyes were completely clear. One, he said. One healthy embryo, she said. That's enough, that's all we need. He was quiet for a long time. My father would have said that was exactly right, he said. He always said you only needed one of a thing if it was the right one. Diana looked at him. At his face in the morning light. At the tremor in his hands. At the man who was running out of time, with a grace that she would spend the rest of her life trying to understand. We implant next Thursday, she said. The days between the decision and the implantation had a particular quality. Samuel was declining. The care team had adjusted his medication. The involuntary movements were more frequent. He was sleeping more. But when he was awake, he was fully present. He had a purpose that organized his remaining energy. He worked on the 3rd wooden box. Deanna had seen it on his side table now. He worked on it slowly, with hands that shook, with the same careful attention he had given everything in his life. She did not ask about it. She knew now who it was for. One evening, he asked her something she hadn't expected. Will you tell them about me? She looked at him. Everything, she said immediately. Your father, the bookshelves, the houses you built, the way you made the box, the way you looked at things, all of it. He exhaled. Long and slow. The release of something held. I'm not afraid of being forgotten, he said. I'm afraid of being known only as the man who was sick. I was other things first. I know, she said. I'll make sure they know. He reached out. His trembling hand. He placed it over hers. Briefly, just a moment. She held still. She let him. Thursday came. Diana took the morning off. She went to the clinic. She lay in a room that was clean and quiet and entirely unremarkable. The procedure took 11 minutes. 11 minutes to carry something forward that had been building for generations. She drove herself home afterward. She made tea. She sat in the kitchen. The flat was very quiet. She thought, something may have just begun inside me. Or it may not have. She would not know for 2 weeks. She put her hand flat on the kitchen table. The way Samuel pressed his hands down to still the tremor. She hadn't realized she was doing it until it was done. She sat there for a long time. She went in for her afternoon shift. She went straight to room 7. Samuel was awake. Barely. His eyes opened when she came in. "Done," she said quietly. He did not speak. He couldn't at that moment. The day had been hard. But he looked at her, and in that look was everything. Gratitude. Tenderness. The particular piece of a man who has done what he came to do. And is ready. He died 11 days later. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. The way people die on palliative wards when their care has been good. Gradually. With their pain managed and their dignity intact and someone they trusted in the room. Diana was there. She had asked to be assigned to his care for the final days, and the ward sister had agreed without question. Everyone on the ward knew what Samuel Ashford meant to Diana Osei. Nobody had named it. They didn't need to. On his last full conscious day, he had spoken to her. With effort. Each word considered and placed. "The box," he said, "the third one." "I know," she said. "It's for them," he said, "when they're ready." "I'll give it to them," she said, "when the time is right." He was quiet for a moment. "I've been thinking," he said, "about what my father said about love arriving complete." She waited. "I think that's true," he said. "I think I understand it now in a way I didn't before." She looked at him. "Because of the baby," she said. "Because of you," he said. She did not speak. She did not need to. She sat beside him and held his hand. The tremor was gone now. The disease had taken even that. His hand was still. Finally still. She held it anyway. He died at 4 a.m. The ward was quiet. Diana was in the chair beside his bed. She had been there for 2 hours. She held his hand until it was done. She sat for a while after. In the specific silence of a room that has just changed. Then she stood up. She straightened his blanket. The way she always did. Because it was what she did. Because the dignity of the body mattered even after. She picked up the wooden box from the windowsill. She put it in her bag. And she went to do her rounds. The pregnancy test was positive on a Tuesday morning. 14 days after the implantation. 6 days after Samuel died. Diana sat on the edge of her bath. With the test in her hand. For a long time. 2 lines. She thought about a man who had built houses that would outlast him. Who had made boxes with dovetail joints. Who had kept letters from his father. Who had spent 8 years knowing he was dying and had not wasted a single day on bitterness. Who had asked her, a stranger at first, and then not a stranger at all, to carry something he couldn't carry himself. Not just a name. A whole way of being in the world. Curious, careful, generous. Present. She looked at the 2 lines. And for the first time since she had walked out of room 6 days ago, she cried. Not in grief. Not entirely. In the complicated, overwhelming fullness of someone who has been given something that cannot be explained. Something that arrives complete. Fully formed. In 1 second. She named him Joseph. After Samuel's father. Samuel had told her his father's name on the 3rd week. Casually, in the middle of a story about a bookshelf. She had filed it. The way she filed everything. Joseph Ashford Osei. She had kept both names. Without hesitation. It had not felt like a decision. It had felt like the only option. He had dark eyes, and from the beginning, a focused quality to his attention that made people comment on it. The way he looked at things. Like he was studying them, learning them, storing them away. Diana watched it and felt something she had no word for. Recognition, almost. As if she knew this quality from somewhere. She did. She kept the third box on the shelf in his room. From the beginning. Next to his books. She had filled it with books before he could read. Samuel had said a room, without books, was a room waiting to wake up. Joseph's room was awake from the start. She had opened the box when Joseph was born. Alone, late at night. With him asleep in her arms. Inside were letters. Samuel's handwriting. Shaking in places, the tremor visible in the pen strokes. But careful. Each one dated. Each one addressed. To my child, who I will never meet. She had not read them. Not yet. They were not for her. She had laid them back inside. And closed the lid. And set the box back on the shelf. For when he was ready. She told him about Samuel as he grew. In pieces. Age-appropriate pieces that got fuller as he got older. About the houses he had built. About the wooden box with the dovetail joints. About the grandfather who had written letters to everyone he loved. About a man who had known he was running out of time and had spent every remaining moment making sure the things that mattered would outlast him. Joseph listened the way children listen when they understand, on some level, that they are being given something important. With his whole face. With the specific focused attention that made people comment. The way his father had listened. The way his father's father had listened. The way, perhaps, Ashford's had always listened. When Joseph was 7, Diana took him to see one of the houses Samuel had designed. A modest, semi-detached in a quiet street. A family lived there now. She had found the address in Samuel's old professional files. She parked across the street. Joseph looked at it for a long time. He made that, he said. He designed it, she said. Someone else built it, but the thinking was his. Joseph was quiet. It looks like it's listening, he said. Diana looked at the house. At the large front window. The open aspect. The way the light was handled. Yes, she said quietly, it does. She gave him the box when he was 12. On a quiet Sunday. She sat beside him while he opened it. She did not read the letters. She stayed while he did. The way she had always stayed. With people who needed someone in the room. Joseph read slowly. His face moving through things she couldn't name. She held still. She let him have it. When he finished the last letter, he sat for a long time. Very quiet. Then he looked at her. He knew me, Joseph said. He wrote about things I actually do, things I like. How did he know? Diana looked at her son. At his dark eyes and his focused way of holding his attention on a thing. At the person he was, careful and curious and generous and present. Because he was you, she said, in a different time with a different name. Joseph looked at the letter in his hands. Then at the box. Then at the shelf full of books. I want to be an architect, he said. Diana did not say anything. She had known. For years. She simply put her arm around him. And held on. The name Ashford did not end in a hospital room at 4 in the morning. It continued. In a boy with dark eyes who looked at houses like they were listening. Who filled rooms with books. Who studied how things worked. Who carried, without knowing all of it yet, the careful and curious and generous way of a family that had loved well for 3 generations and was not finished. A nurse had made that possible. A woman who understood that her job was not just to ease suffering, but to recognize, sometimes, the most extraordinary ask, and have the courage to say yes, because someone had to. And she was the kind of person who stayed.